I'm just checking the camera.
Left-handed, redhead. And a lot bigger in terms of their body size than me. Well, Joel and I are really, actually, if we trace back everything, kind of close. You know, used to be. We were sitting in there.
I remember the place because there's no place else like that. The ceiling is fucking
Went back after about it's been that way since they were talking. I don't know what. I broke another layer too. There's an antique, a tall lamp that has a glass thing. Suddenly, for them. It's smoked. And be sure cheese. I wish I could have 3 in the morning. But you started to clean this up. Yeah, you got rid of it. He's a good temper. Have you talked to them about that one?
I'm kind of learning.
It's very hard.
I don't understand this.
That was
I used to live down in the village. It's 24 days. No, they did.
25 years. Like,
But we're
it's really great.
No, I was looking over your shoulder at the screen.
Yeah, I can't get far enough back to get the picture.
Now let me walk back up. Does it, when it prints out, take it through the computer?
You can, but my computer's not powerful enough to do it. So, no, you can put it on the computer and print it out, get stills and edit it and everything.
Yeah, because I have a program for editing those things.
Do you?
You put it on a disc.
Yeah, but it would be a big hit.
We in the studio, we started like a chairs and piano. We're doing 30 at the end. Amazing. I'm not as shocked as I
I know there's a camera in here somewhere.
Sorry, Marissa. There she is, Marissa.
Marilyn Banner.
That's called, I mean, what do you call it?
What's a video game? Oh, this, I don't know what you call this. It's just the way they do
God, I think if I had something like that, I could take better pictures. You see exactly what you're getting.
yeah, pretty much.
You cut somebody's head off, you'll see it.
Right.
You might not notice that. This show is beautifully done, too.
Well, thank you. And that's as did Gabe.
Very expensive,
Oh, no, my cat used to sleep on it. It's from the back, just because it was a comfortable place, it wasn't scary.
4x8.
And in the winter, it gets kind of warm, because it's a dark color, and it's, yeah, lights it. I have a pink rhinoceros that's got snow on it. It's similar, but
Most of the
rhinoceros. And it gets snow all over it.
That's fair.
I'm so glad you all like it. And I love the pictures, I made another one. I love the pictures of it in the snow and the trees. It's just
I did say that.
just exactly.
We know that we look out.
Nobody's going to have to apply.
I used to have 12 women though, like this woman in the house, and she has a painting with a dining room table.
So I made some
Filled up the dining room
white with
with the women, we
So I
Well, you're invited to come and see it anytime.
Thank you.
And
Let's go.
somebody put me on, and what do you do?
I used to write for a magazine. It's like, it's good. I get to do
And also from the Pacific Northwest. And where are those big canoes from there? New Guinea, that area.
That really is. Okay, here we are in my show in New York City at CERES Gallery, and here is my name. And the show is still with us. Okay, this is the entrance. I'll back up a little bit. This is as you enter my space. And you walk in the gallery, this is what you see. This first wall that looks kind of like a mausoleum. And we'll go up close and look at some of those pieces. Okay, this one you can see that you might see that there is a menorah shape in the background, bleached out into the yellow fabric. And in the center, that wonderful circle is from an old synagogue in Prague. And this, like some of the other pieces, has text, anti-Semitic text actually, historical text on it. And we'll get in closer. I don't know if we can read any, but you can get a feeling of it. Around here, there's another piece. Back up a little. This is actually one of the earlier pieces I did, I think. I just started with many, many images of graves, images that I had taken of gravestones in Prague from the old Jewish graveyard or cemetery. And I just wanted to give the feeling of, some kind of feeling of infinite death or infinite memorials to the Jews who died there. I'll go a little closer to this so you can read some of the text. And those letters up there on the top, those are the letters that led to the crematorium at Terezin. And they are a memorial. They're about memorializing people who died there. I'm not going to talk about every one of these, but I just want to give a picture of what the show looks like here at CERES. This. And all of these works are on fabric that has been dyed yellow, and I've used a photo transfer method to transfer my photos and a few other images of people that I hadn't taken the original photos. And then I've gone in with pen and ink and ink wash, and in some cases colored India ink, and enhanced these. This central image down there is an entrance to a cell block at the little fortress, which was near the concentration camp at Terezin, and it was a place where prisoners were tortured and kept in very tight spaces. Go up. This one I call Man Praying. It doesn't have that title on it, but this is part of the later series. The first series that I did was called, I just called it the Terezin series, and this later series I actually called Still With Us. And in that series I was looking for images of survival and joy. And that's some of what we're seeing. Real close to this. This actually has some images from my own family on it. It says down there, some of us survived. This is one of the images that I used when I was exploring the idea of joy, joyful Jews. Okay, we'll move around a little bit more. Just going to go in so we can get close-ups of these images of those beautiful old gravestones in the cemetery at Prague, and some of the unfortunately awful things that were said about Jews, which certainly contributed to the Holocaust later. Things that were in early texts. Many of these are by Luther. This is one of Luther's, I don't know how many was it, points, like 10 points or 12 points about Jews. Here's a later image where I was combining some of the faces, not particularly joyful faces, but people's faces with gravestone. I guess kind of as if their spirits are still there. And actually, this particular cemetery was full of spirit. This is actually an image of my grandmother, who was not at Terezin and not from Prague and not buried there, but certainly representative of Old World Jews. And these lower images, using photographs that I took of the crematorium in Terezin. Now, Terezin was not a regular, it was not the kind of concentration camp where there were gas chambers and things like that. This crematorium was where people who died there, their bodies were burned. But many, many, many people died there because the conditions were awful. Again, there's the words from over this entrance to that crematorium. This image of a butcher actually is from a photograph that I took years and years ago when I was looking just at the dark side of existence. And it fits so perfectly with this work that butcher appears in many of these pieces. Okay, that's that whole wall. There's another wall in the gallery that is much more empty. It's this wall. Almost as if people are missing. The feeling of people missing. I'll go into one of those. And I'll go in a little closer so you can see the faces of these people. These faces are actually of children and a man at the turn of the century on the Lower East Side of New York. But the faces show not only poverty, I thought, but the pain of being part of a group of people that have been oppressed, as the Jews have, and scapegoated for so long. Another quote from Luther. Okay, we'll move around on that wall a little more. This piece was actually inspired by several things. One, a sign that was near in the neighboring neighborhood to me when I was little, in around, right after the Second World War, maybe 1948, even in as late as 1950, there was a sign at the swimming pool in the next neighborhood that said, "No Jews or dogs allowed," which I never forgot, of course, that sign. And those are the words on the side of here, "No Jews or dogs." And actually, when I did this piece, I had just visited the Holocaust Museum in Washington and was reminded of the uniforms that the Jews had to wear in the concentration camps. So these lines are reference to those uniforms. And this little star up there that says "I am" was actually the beginning of this whole series. I went to my studio and I made many of these little stars that said "I am one." Because it actually took me traveling all the way to Prague to come to grips with my Jewish identity even more. And part of what it entails, including a feeling of responsibility to do this work. Okay, this is another wall of the gallery. This wall is expressing that feeling of survival and joy. The wall is meant to express that. And we'll go closer to some of these images so you can see them. These images, again, this is taken from the cemetery, the old Jewish cemetery in Prague, which had wonderful gravestones, really on top of each other. We were told that the Jews in Prague, because the cemetery was so small and so many Jews lived there, centuries ago, that the Jews were all buried in the cemetery 12 deep. And because of that, the graves are on top of each other and shifting and certainly not spaced out the way they are in a regular cemetery. Now, this Hebrew writing is all taken from the Torah and actually all from the story of Queen Esther, and which really has to do with survival of Jews. I can go in a little bit closer to some of the star images and show what's on those. These are actually some of my family members on this one. I love this one because of the feeling of joy in it. Go back up. Little boy studying. This image is actually taken from a Rosh Hashanah ritual where a chicken is swung over the head of a boy, and the prayer says something like that this chicken will be in replacement of killing the firstborn son. This one. A lot of musicians. Okay, here's the piece that was on the card for the show. You can see that the shapes in the show of the yellow fabric are reminiscent of a very simple grave shape. And a few more pieces on the last wall. You can see the menorah in this one as well. Menorah shape. The text. A lot of this text was taken from an article written by a nun in Darmstadt, Germany, about 2 or 3 years ago, documenting the history of Christian anti-Semitism. So it's not all text. Some of it documents pogroms in various European countries. Actually, in almost every century. I'll show you a few more of these stars. This obviously from the Still With Us, images of joyful Jews. These are actually happy-looking Jews, but it's a little bit sad because these people actually were all pre-war, and probably most of them were killed, if not all. Probably everyone. There's a wonderful combination of some images from my own family and of the tradition of study in Judaism. We'll end with that one. Okay, here we are walking into CERES Gallery. To see my show and Stephanie Benson's show. A little bit of Stephanie Benson's and most of mine. This is the big gallery at CERES. This is some of Stephanie Benson's work. I think I'll go right up close to one. See how close I can get. I'll have to see in here. Yeah, that's a little better. These should probably actually be done with black light, but because I'm just doing this to get a sense of the space, I'll just walk around in this large space at CERES Gallery. And show her work. This is pretty impressive because it's a grid made of 20 pieces of work, all put together on this wall like this. This work is actually about art stars and the system, this art world system. That's the content, but the images are really quite powerful. Okay. I'll keep walking around. Probably get close to one of these. These are wonderful. Mixed, confused. The idea is that you can't tell who these are because they're composite images of famous artists. And she's played with her materials a lot. Basically a mixture of oil painting and printmaking. I think we'll go over to this one. This is actually a composite. I don't know if you can see it through here. A composite of Elizabeth Murray, who was a famous painter. And this whole piece, which is 16 little boards, makes an image of Elizabeth Murray's face. But each individual one is just a little abstract of hair, or an eye, or a mouth. You can see the nose and mouth in there. And then there's one more wall here. Her work. There's little pieces. And then the way this looks here at CERES, there's this very big room with Stephanie's work. And you walk around and you see the entrance to my space, which is where we started last time. And then, lo and behold, you look in there, and you see this very strong work in there. Looking kind of like a church. And you're drawn in to see that. We didn't get this little star last time, which actually has my little girl image of me.